Where do you put a dungeon?
I don't know.
On a page.
What?
So, Dungeon Pages is a print and play roll and write game from Jason Tagmar and Jason Greeno.
That's quite the duo.
Yeah, it's quite the duo. Dungeon Pages is available both in a core set as well as in a year-long campaign where they're releasing a different dungeon every week for 2023.
That's really cool.
Yeah, this first came out in January 2023, so it's a brand new product. And by the end of the year, you'll have 52 different dungeon pages to crawl through.
That's amazing.
So let's talk about the game a little bit. In Dungeon Pages, you get a dungeon sheet. Your dungeon sheet has a hero and has a series of monsters. It also has 4 mini dungeons and a boss dungeon. You have to complete the 4 mini dungeons before you're allowed to go on to the boss dungeon. In order to complete a dungeon, you need to write a sequential path or any path of numbers from the entrance to the treasure chest in that dungeon. Along the way, if you write 2 of the same number next to a coin or a key or a potion, you get to collect it. And you need to fight the monsters. They will attack you depending on the dice rolls, and then you want to attack them by writing numbers next to them that are greater than their defense values. One of the key elements going into each dungeon and how difficult it is how many dice you roll. So as you level up, you get to roll more good dice. But as the dungeons get more difficult, you have to roll more bad dice, which are the dice that trigger the monsters. So it can get quite hard when you have 2 or 3 bad dice being rolled and you have 4 or 5 creatures attacking you all at once. And if you get a 6 on their die, you're in trouble. A key goal in Dungeon Pages is to write a sequential number of numbers. In other words, numbers that are the same or plus or minus 1 of a previous number along an orthogonal path from the door to the treasure chest. Yep. If you do that, only if you do that, do you get to collect experience points. And when you finish a dungeon and you get to use those experience points and level up, you basically mark off anything under the experience chart, which usually means more dice, more powers. Also, you get to choose from a weapon or a relic. And the weapon will expand your ability to write numbers at a range sometimes, so you can skip and jump away from the previous numbers rather than having to write orthogonally adjacent or on diagonals. When you've completed the 4 micro dungeons, then you get to take on the boss dungeon. And watch out for traps. Traps are there along the way, and you have to be very careful not to trigger them.
In terms of theme and immersiveness, I mean, it's a print and play. You know, you don't have miniatures or a lot of, extensive artwork or a board. But for a print and play, it really packs a lot of theme into it. Aside from the fact that there's going to be 52 different dungeons, the core set comes with 4 dungeon pages. Each one has a different hero. Each one has a different sort of special power. The things, the relics and the weapons that you can level up to are different. And so for me, that is really immersive. Thinking about, okay, well, this hero has a battle axe, or this hero has a ranged weapon, or can get a ranged weapon, so it has a longer range. So for a print and play, I think that the theme and immersiveness really come through. Again, especially because there's 4 different mini dungeons plus the boss dungeon on each page. There's different monsters in each one. There's just so much packed into this game. And the art is really lovely. There's not a ton of it because it's 1 page, but each page has a different hero, and it's just really nicely done.
And tagging on to what you just said about theme and immersiveness, one of the things about the game that is very creative is all the different monsters, all the different characters, and in addition to there being, for example, 4 dungeon pages in the base set plus 52 coming in the annual, you can mix and match. So you can take the hero from 1 page and match it with the dungeons from another page, and create your own adventure. So you really have unlimited adventures before you. There's so much creativity that goes into that, and all the creative traps and all the creative and unique monsters and heroes and their special abilities. There's so much variety to delve into here.
Yeah, there really is. And I don't know there have been a couple of print and play roll and writes that did things like build up over the course of a year, but I think this is probably one of the best I've seen done. It is really mature. It is really polished for a print and play. If you were going to look at a year long, almost campaign print and play, this is the way to go.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that all of this put together makes this a really rich experience, especially for a print and play, but really in general. I love the fact that your content is going to continue to grow over the course of the year. I love just each individual play has so much to it. You've got those 4 mini dungeons. You can kind of decide where you want to start and how you want to level up your character. So we did one recently where I feel like I made a mistake because I needed the weapon that wasn't just orthogonal, was diagonal. And so I kind of hamstrung myself by not going in the right order. So there's a lot of decision making there to make, especially once you get used to the system. You can kind of look at the whole page overall and make some strategic decisions about it. I always love the opportunity to level up and to get stuff, and then being able to pick whether you're going to get a relic or whether you're going to get a different weapon also kind of brings some uniqueness to each experience, because you can't do everything. And I think that's a really critical part of any good game, is making you make those choices.
And not every sheet's created equal. Some are more difficult than others, and that helps if you're looking for more of a challenge. There's the infamous Mira sheet. Mira is one of the heroes, and her sheet's nearly impossible.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't won it yet, but whereas I've won every other sheet that I've played at least once. So, it's interesting. There's different levels of challenges involved. There is a little bit, I think, in terms of negatives, because of the creativity that went into it. There's some gray areas at times where you're like, does this work this way? Mm-hmm. And you're not 100% clear because it's not 100% covered by the rules, or it is, but you have to know the rules well enough to interpret, whatever element you're trying to interpret, whether it's a new trap or a new monster ability or something like that. And so you do encounter that now and then.
Yeah. It does something else that I like in some other games, sort of systems that we have played, where once you sort of understand the core of how things work, like, okay, this means that the monster has 2 dice. This means that the monster has this many hit points. You have sort of the basic understanding to play through each of the next sheets. And then any special rules are on that sheet as well, which makes it really easy to learn and to continue to play and expand.
Right.
So what did you rate this game?
Well, I gave it an 8.5, which for a roll and write print and play is really, really high. So that's obviously indicative of how much I like it. And I really, really enjoyed it. I've played it, I think, almost 30 times already.
Yeah.
In the month that we've had it. So this is a very enjoyable game.
It really is. I gave it a 7.75, and the reason it's a little lower is I haven't played it as much as you. I'm finding it harder to get to the table. It is a solo game, and we do most of our gaming together, and I just don't have as much time for a solo game. It's also a little bit long for a solo game. If it's something really quick and snappy, I can get it to the table easier, and I personally am more likely to play it more often. That's not necessarily a knock on the game. That's just more of how it fits into my play style. It is an excellent roll and write, an excellent print and play. Just as a solo game, I'm not going to get it to the table as much as you are.
Yeah, well, I have time.
Yeah. In fact, that's why we've been doing on Saturday mornings. Sometimes we'll sit down and we'll play together apart. We'll both be rolling our dice, but that's our time. We're kind of doing it together, and we can talk about the monsters, and we can talk about the heroes and kind of share the experience. That for me helps me get it to the table. And the more we do that, I think the more I'm going to like it, and my rating may go up.
Yeah. Anyway, that's our thoughts on Dungeon Pages. Check it out. It is still available on the PNP Arcade, and you can still get the core set or the year-long set. We're only a few weeks in. Remember, every day that you game
is a holiday.